Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to be here, although I did not expect to be elected. In fact, I did my very best to avoid it, having spent the last 18 months campaigning for Ewan Aitken, the Labour candidate set against the Justice Secretary in Edinburgh Eastern. Ewan would have been an outstanding addition to this chamber, and I am sure that's one thing that Mr McCaskill and I could agree on. It was undoubtedly a bad night for my party, but we cannot afford to grieve for too long. Over 70,000 people in the Lothians trusted their vote with Labour, and I must do right by them. But every member in this chamber carries a weight of deep responsibility, not least the new government who I welcome to their roles. The potential this SNP government has to effect real and lasting change according to its party's values is far greater than any that has preceded it. No compromises, no excuses. It must use this opportunity wisely and focus on the issues which really matter to the people we collectively seek to represent. And with that sentiment, I'd like to turn to the issue of child poverty. Today, the First Minister said that elsewhere on these isles, the tolerance of the poor is being tested, budgets slashed, priorities changed, hopes crushed in the braying tones of people who claim to know best. That may be true, First Minister, but it is also happening here in your Scotland. The brutal truth is this: just over 200,000 children in Scotland live in relative poverty today. In the history of this Parliament, that number has only ever gone down under Labour and up under the SNP. I have here the Child Poverty Strategy for Scotland, launched by the Deputy First Minister a week before the last Parliament dissolved. Today, the First Minister has said that his vision of a nation is one that is fair and just, a nation that is fertile for ambition and talent, where the deepest challenges we face are acknowledged and then tackled head-on. If that is true, why is this document the last action of the last government rather than its first? It's for this government to prove that this document was more than a gesture or a box-ticking exercise through early and decisive action on child poverty in this Parliament. This document, to give it credit, recognises that little progress has been made since 2004-05 and that further and faster progress must be made. It goes on to say that the recession does not widen the risk of poverty, it increases it for those people already most at risk of becoming poor or remaining in poverty for longer. It therefore follows that the government must double its efforts simply to maintain the status quo. Child poverty is so deep-rooted, so entrenched in our society, that this must be the government that makes serious inroads if we are, as a nation, to have any prospect of achieving the 2020 target of eradicating child poverty. We must have that 2020 vision. I admire the SNP for their chutzpah, for the passion they hold for separation, however misguided. I only wish they had the same fire in their belly for tackling poverty. We've heard much today about a social wage, but whatever happened to that pact, that promise for a living wage? Why so coy to produce an early years bill? Why so shy to provide nursery places for vulnerable 2-year-olds? Whilst the SNP hope and aspire to an independent Scotland, the Prince's Trust has produced a report which says that 1 in 4 young people have lost the ability to hope at all. They warn of a developing youth underclass in our country. These are young people who want to and are able to work. They do, however, need real support in the transition from school to adulthood, from training programmes to the workplace. The first official engagement I undertook as an MSP was to visit the Canongate Youth Project, an innovative organisation which has been working with young people in Edinburgh since 1977. I was astonished to hear them talk about their lives, how they considered their community to be a dump, how they hated the police, how they boasted about living for the weekend, a chance to drink and lark with their friends. When pushed, when really given the opportunity to express themselves, they opened up a little and explained how they felt harassed by the police. They walk in numbers for fear of their own safety, but the police seek to break them up. They are regularly stopped and searched. They feel sometimes with good reasons and sometimes without. Their experience of life in their community left them without self-respect, without good reason to hope. The voices of these young people must be heard in this Parliament. Their stories and their lives should inform what we do, for ultimately it is their Scotland we seek to better in this chamber and in all the work we do. I worry that the more we wrangle over constitutions, procedures and powers, the further this Parliament gets from addressing the needs of the people who need it the most. All of us here in the Chamber have been elected to hope, to aspire, to lead. We have that luxury, but we must use it wisely.